All right, so I have seen way too much hate on bookmarks over the past, 2 or 3 days. And that prompted me to do something that every business person does, make a PowerPoint. So today we're going to be talking about bookmarks in Power BI and why they're a misunderstood feature. So let's look at our agenda. First, we're going to cover what are bookmarks. We're then going to dive into how bookmarks can affect all visuals or selected visuals. We're then going to look at their individual settings. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to organize them so updating them isn't a pain. All right, so what are bookmarks? Bookmarks allow you to save the state or substate of a visual so you can essentially go back later to it with a button. That's it. That's all they are. Why this matters and why you should use them, even if you think they're a pain, is because they bring the magic interactivity to your Power BI dashboards that people love. And frankly, it doesn't matter how cool your data is if people don't use your dashboard. People want to use things that feel like a web page, and bookmarks are what let things feel like a web page. All right, so let's dive in. First, let's go over and let's look at how you actually create a bookmark. You go over here to the bookmarks pane, and if you don't have it, you can enable it by just clicking over here and enabling this bookmark. Okay, you then will have this bookmarks page. You can then add a bookmark by going through and clicking this plus button. Okay, that's a bookmark. That's all it is. When you do and you create a bookmark, though, you can control all visuals or the selected visuals. So a bookmark can affect either all the visuals on a page or in your report, or it can affect just a small group. The best practice of this is to just have it affect a small group. So when you go through and you create a bookmark, pretty much always, unless you're trying to do some broad thing, only have it affect selected bookmarks. So there we go. I just changed it. So what does that mean now when we're looking at our visuals? It means that if I have, and we'll bring over a couple of visuals. So we'll bring over 2 cards. So we'll copy that and bring it over here and over here. So what that means is that if I go into my selection pane and I have 2 cards here, right, and I only want to control the visibility of this one card, if I go and I select this so it's highlighted, and then I go and it's not highlighted, so select this so it's highlighted, and then I go update right here, okay, and then I hide this one and unhide this one. When I go back to this bookmark, it doesn't affect the visibility of this one. This is key. When you're dealing with bookmarks, you always want to only have it affect the visuals that you care about. Otherwise, you'll end up in a world of hurt. Okay? All right. Now let's talk through the rest of the settings here. So within a bookmark, we have 3 different substates that it can control. So the first is the display. So that's what I was just demonstrating to you, which is the visibility of the visuals. The second is the data, which means it can control the filter context of the visuals. And the third is the current page, which means that if you disable this feature when you're on a different page and it's not checked, it won't bring you back to that bookmark. Okay, let's dive in and let's take a look at what these are. Okay, so here's that same report I have, which I seem to have lost the top of, but I don't really think that matters. So right now, if I go to bookmark 4, it brings me to this other page, right? If I go through and I uncheck current page, okay, and now I try to go to that bookmark won't do anything. So that's the first piece of this. All right, let's talk about the second piece, which is the filter context. Okay, so if I highlight this and I say revenue, let me bring in another field here. So I bring in fiscal quarter, right? And I select this. If I now highlight this, you got to make sure it's highlighted, and that's another thing people always mess up with bookmarks. I right-click this and data is selected. If I now go update, right, and remember I'm on selected visual, so it'll only affect this visual. If I now, click this and I clear these filters, okay, if I now go back to this bookmark, it now reapplies that same visibility setting, which in this case was visible, and it reapplies that filter. If I uncheck data right here, even if the filter's cleared, when I go back to it, it'll just affect the visibility. In this case, it was already visible. So let me hide this, right? Go back to the bookmark, boom. It just affected the visibility. So when you're using bookmarks, really only have it affect the selected visuals and only have it affect the state that you want it to affect. So in this case, I only want it to affect if this control is visible, and I only want it to affect this single selected visual. All right, now let's talk organization. So the best part, or the best way to organize bookmarks so you don't forget what they are, is just to change their name. The best method that I have for doing this, and what I tell my team to do, is to prefix essentially the page name and then put in their purpose, right? So let's go back to this report. And I wasn't following my own team standard here, which is if I have my slicers right here, right, I would, and this was going to be a multi-page report, what I would expect them to do is I would expect them to have this be page 1 dash slicers. Okay. Then I would expect this to say page 1 dash clear action. Okay. And then I would expect this to be page 1 slash what if. Okay. It's now very clear in this organization of this bookmark what exactly this is meant to do. In this case, if it's meant to control card visibility, right, I would want to rename these two cards so they make sense. So I want this to be card 1 top, right, and then I would want this to be card 2 top. Okay, and then if these two visuals were grouped right here, so if I group these and I just call these cards, right, I would then want this to be named page 2 cards. Okay, so right here I have the group of visuals I want it to affect, and then the bookmark and the page that it affects. So in this case, right, I can then go through and I can set it so it only controls the display and the selected visuals. I can highlight this group, so highlight it so it's marked green, hit the visual, and I can go update. Okay, so now when these are visible, if I go here and right there, it didn't update, which again, that's people's complaint, but like, look, there we go. It's not visible right there. It's display, it's selected visuals. Got to make sure it's highlighted green. And I click update. Okay. When I now go back to this, it now hides them. Okay. And I would maybe even rename this cards group. And that right there, that'll keep you organized. Finally, you also need to group your slicers. So group them in what they're meant to do. So like if we go back to page 1 right here, right, I have all of my slicer panels grouped right here. So here it is: time, product, place. You see that? Okay. Same thing right here. I then have page 1 what if. I have graph, I have settings. See? Updating bookmarks is fairly easy here. And all I want you to take from this video is that no matter what you feel about them, if you stay organized and you essentially only have them affect the tiny little piece that you want them to control, they are what makes people feel a report is special. And if people feel a report is special, then they're going to use it. And it doesn't matter how much effort you put into data modeling. If people don't think a report is good, they're not going to use it. All right. Thanks for watching. This video is actually part of my Power BI Basics series, which is a video. Essentially, I'm releasing a daily video on how to use the basics of Power BI. However, this one I did a deep dive, and I'm going to be releasing it slightly out of order because I feel like people don't know how to use bookmarks, and I think they get too much hate. All right, bye. Thanks for watching. Oh, and if you want to watch more of these, subscribe.